Vampire King's daughter rejected the food cooked by all, except the one cooked by human waitress. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Meet Lily, a humble waitress who works at a small but bustling diner in the heart of the city. Every day, she serves coffee, fries, and burgers to a variety of customers. But what most people don't know about Lily is that she has a unique talent. Her cooking, though simple, carries a touch of magic, a warmth and comfort that seems to heal even the most weary souls. Little did she know, her simple, home-cooked meal would change the course of her life forever. One evening, as the diner's lights flickered in the dimming twilight, a new set of guests arrived. Among them was a tall, handsome man with sharp, piercing eyes. He seemed out of place in the usual crowd of city workers and tourists, his presence commanding, yet oddly calm. Behind him stood a young woman, his daughter, who appeared fragile and distant. The man's aura was chilling, like a storm cloud that loomed over the entire room. The daughter, though regal, was silent, her gaze cold and uninterested in the bustling diner. As Lily made her way to their table with the usual warm smile, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. There was something about this family that felt different. The man, who introduced himself as the Vampire King, sat with his daughter at the center of the booth. He didn't speak much at first, only observing the room. His daughter, however, seemed to recoil at the idea of food, her eyes narrowing in disdain as Lily set down the plates of food. "I'm sorry," the Vampire King said with a deep, controlled voice, "but she won't eat this." Lily stood frozen for a moment, her hands still holding the plates. She didn't know what to say. The Vampire King's daughter had rejected the food that everyone else seemed to enjoy. Lily, confused but undeterred, tried again. She had a special dish she had made that morning, something simple but close to her heart. A recipe passed down through generations, something her grandmother used to make when Lily was a child. She brought the dish over, setting it gently in front of the Vampire King's daughter. As the young woman hesitated, Lily could feel the weight of her stare. The silence was unbearable. Then, to Lily's surprise, the daughter picked up her fork and took a bite. The room seemed to hold its breath. The young woman's expression softened, her lips curling into a small, almost imperceptible smile. For the first time, she looked at Lily with something other than disdain. She nodded quietly and took another bite. The Vampire King, who had been watching intently, raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected this. Lily, unsure of what had just happened, stepped back, her heart racing. What was it about this simple dish that had changed everything? The Vampire King's daughter, who had rejected everything else, was now eating her food, and the king's eyes were fixed on Lily with a curiosity she couldn't understand. She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was the beginning of something far bigger than she could imagine. The Vampire King stood up, his tall figure towering over Lily. "You have a gift," he said, his voice low and commanding. "You've done something that no one else has been able to do. My daughter, she has not eaten in years." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. What had she just gotten herself into? I hope you're ready for what comes next, because things are about to get even more intense. After that unexpected moment with the Vampire King's daughter, Lily found herself caught in a web of intrigue she had never imagined. The rest of the evening at the diner passed in a blur for Lily. She couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. The Vampire King's daughter, who had refused to eat for years, had actually accepted her food, and the king's gaze remained on her longer than she felt comfortable with. As the night grew darker and the diner emptied, Lily was cleaning up the tables, her mind racing. What was this gift the Vampire King had spoken about? And why was she suddenly thrust into the world of vampires? Just then, the door of the diner opened, and in stepped the man who had turned her world upside down. The Vampire King himself. His presence was imposing, almost suffocating, as if the room grew colder the moment he entered. He didn't speak at first, just observed her from the entrance, his piercing eyes never leaving her. Lily's heart skipped a beat, and she swallowed hard as he approached. "You've caught my attention, Lily," he said, his voice as smooth as velvet, but filled with an undeniable command. She stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. I need to know more about you. Meet me tomorrow evening at the old castle by the cliffs. There is something about you that I must understand. With that, he turned and left the diner without another word. The entire room seemed to exhale as the door closed behind him. Lily stood there for a long time, her hands still holding the rag she had been using to clean. The castle by the cliffs. The thought made her nervous. She didn't know why, but something deep inside her urged her to go, to uncover the truth about the vampire king and his daughter. The next evening, Lily found herself standing in front of the imposing structure of Silverisle Castle. It loomed against the twilight sky, its dark stone walls giving it an almost foreboding presence. She had never seen anything like it. The sheer size of the castle made her feel small, insignificant, yet part of her felt a strange pull to it. She had no choice but to enter. As she walked through the grand archway, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hall that smelled of old books and firewood. It felt like stepping into another world, one that she wasn't prepared for. A servant, dressed in a black uniform, greeted her and guided her deeper into the castle. "The king is expecting you," the servant said, his tone neutral. Lily nodded, trying to hide her unease as she followed him through the labyrinth of corridors. The further they went, the colder it became. Finally, they reached a large wooden door, which the servant opened for her. Inside was a vast chamber, with high ceilings and intricate tapestries hanging from the walls. At the center of the room, seated on a massive throne, was the vampire king. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and he regarded her with the same intense gaze he had given her at the diner. "Lily," he said, his voice low and steady. "I trust you've come as I asked." Lily's heart raced. She nodded, unsure of what to expect next. The vampire king gestured for her to approach. She hesitated but stepped forward, her hands trembling. "I need to know why you're the only one who can reach my daughter," he said, his eyes fixed on her. "She has not eaten like that in decades, and I believe you are the key to breaking the curse that has bound her." Lily was taken aback. She had no idea what he was talking about. "The curse?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," the vampire king replied. "My daughter has been under a curse since she was very young. No one, not even the most skilled witches or healers, have been able to break it. She has been unable to eat anything, but for some reason, your food worked." He stood, his tall frame casting a shadow over her. "I don't know how you did it, but I believe you're special. You have a gift, one that could change everything for her, and for me." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. The gravity of the situation was beginning to sink in. She had no idea how her food had affected the princess, but now she was tangled up in a world she had never known existed. "What do you want from me?" Lily asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. The vampire king's gaze softened, but only slightly. "I need you to stay here with us," he said. "You are the only one who can help my daughter, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure you are protected. Whatever it takes to make you see that your place is here, with us." The king's words hung in the air like a spell, and Lily was torn. She didn't know if she could trust him, or if she even wanted to be a part of their world. But there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the pull, the strange connection she felt to him, to the princess, and to the mysteries of the curse that had been keeping the princess locked in darkness for so long. "You're asking me to give up my life, my world, to stay here with you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The vampire king didn't answer immediately. He simply studied her, as if weighing her every word. Finally, he spoke. "Yes," he said, "but only if you want to." And just like that, Lily knew that everything was about to change. "I'm glad you're back, because the story is about to take another unexpected turn." Lily sat in the grand chamber, her mind racing with the vampire king's words. His offer hung in the air like a heavy mist, impossible to ignore. Stay with him, stay with them. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. The entire castle, with its dark, mysterious corridors, felt both alien and strangely familiar at the same time. Her feet felt glued to the polished stone floor, but her mind wandered to the life she had left behind. The small diner, the simple comfort of her grandmother's home, the routine she had so carefully built for herself. Could she really give all of that up? The vampire king, Lucian, stood before her, his presence almost suffocating. He was taller than most men, his dark hair flowing like liquid silk, his amber eyes glowing faintly in the candlelight. Despite his regal appearance, there was something broken about him, something ancient, as if the weight of centuries had bent his soul. He watched her closely, waiting for her response, his gaze never wavering. She could see the concern in his eyes, but also an undeniable sense of urgency. "You don't have to decide now," he said, his voice soft but firm. "Take your time, Lily. But know that this offer is not just about you helping my daughter. It's about you becoming a part of something greater, something far beyond what you could ever imagine." The room was silent for a moment as Lily absorbed his words. Could she really become part of this world? The world of vampires, of ancient curses, of power beyond measure? Was she ready to leave behind everything she had ever known for a life shrouded in darkness and mystery? "But why me?" Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Why do you think I can help your daughter when no one else has been able to?" Lucian's expression softened, and he stepped closer. To her, his presence comforting, yet overwhelming. "It's not just your cooking, Lily. It's something more. Something deeper. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. You have a connection to my daughter, something that goes beyond food. You've already touched her in a way that no one else has." Lily's heart raced as she listened to him. She had no idea what he meant, but the intensity of his words left a mark on her soul. "I don't understand," she whispered. "What is this connection? What is it that I'm supposed to do?" Lucian paused for a moment, his eyes searching hers. "I don't fully understand it either," he admitted. "But I know that you are the key to unlocking what has been locked away for so long. My daughter, she is cursed. She has been for as long as I can remember. And I believe you have the power to break that curse. It's not just about her eating again. It's about giving her a chance to live." Lily felt her breath catch in her throat. A curse. She had heard rumors, of course, but never imagined she would be standing here, in this ancient castle, hearing about a real curse. "What kind of curse?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucian turned away for a moment, his eyes distant. "It's a curse that has kept her locked in a state of numbness, of emptiness. She cannot feel, cannot taste, cannot experience life the way others do. For years, we've searched for a way to break it, but nothing has worked. I've tried everything. Spells, magic, even ancient rituals. All of them have failed." He turned back to face her, his gaze intense. "But you, Lily, you've done something that no one else has been able to do. You've made her feel something. And for that, I will be eternally grateful." Lily swallowed hard, her mind swirling. She had no idea what was happening, what kind of power she had just unlocked, but there was no denying the gravity of the situation. She had already crossed a line. She could feel it in her bones. And there was no turning back now. "So, what do you need from me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Lucian stepped closer, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "I need you to stay with us," he said softly. "I need you to help my daughter, to break the curse that has kept her trapped for so long. And in return, I promise you, you will never want for anything again. I will protect you, Lily. You will never have to face the world alone." Lily looked at him, his words sinking deep into her heart. He was offering her a life she had never dreamed of, a life of power, protection, and mystery. But was she ready to leave behind everything she knew? Was she ready to embrace a future with the vampire king and his cursed daughter? As the weight of the decision settled on her shoulders, Lily knew there was only one thing she could do. She took a deep breath and met his gaze. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady. "I'll help you break the curse." Lucian's eyes brightened with something close to relief. He smiled, the expression softening his fierce features. "Thank you, Lily," he said quietly. "You have no idea how much this means to me. To all of us." And just like that, Lily's life changed forever. She had stepped into a world of darkness and intrigue, and there was no turning back. As she followed Lucian through the castle's winding halls, she couldn't help but wonder what awaited her in the shadows. But for the first time, she felt a sense of purpose, a sense of destiny that was stronger than any fear she had ever known. I don't think Lily fully understood what she had signed up for until that night. It was the first time she had been shown the deeper layers of the vampire world, the ancient world that lay hidden beneath the surface of what she thought was reality. Lucian led her through winding corridors, his presence commanding and his steps measured, as if he had all the time in the world. even though she knew time had long since stopped meaning much to him. The castle itself seemed to breathe with its own dark rhythm. It was alive in a way she couldn't explain. Every shadow felt like it was watching her, whispering secrets she was not yet ready to hear. As they walked deeper into the heart of the castle, Lily couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. The air grew colder, and the silence around them was heavy, almost oppressive. They finally arrived at a large, ornately carved door, which Lucian opened with a slow, deliberate motion. Inside was a vast chamber, lit by flickering candles that cast long shadows along the walls. At the center of the room stood a large, intricately designed bed, and lying on it was the princess. She looked so delicate, her pale skin almost glowing in the dim light, her dark hair cascading over the pillow like a waterfall of ink. Lily took a cautious step forward, her heart racing. She had seen the princess only once before, but never up close like this. Her eyes were closed, and she appeared to be in a deep, restless sleep. Lucian walked over to the side of the bed and gently brushed a lock of hair away from his daughter's face. "She hasn't woken up fully in years," he said quietly, his voice tinged with a sadness Lily had never heard from him before. "Her curse has drained her of all feeling, all emotion. But she can still be saved." Lily didn't know what to say. How could she possibly help someone who had been cursed for so long? Someone who had never felt the warmth of a real meal or the joy of a simple touch. She felt like a small, insignificant part of a much larger puzzle she could never hope to complete. But Lucian's words echoed in her mind. "You have a gift," he had said. Could it really be true? Could her cooking, her simple food, truly be the key to breaking this curse? Lucian turned to her, his amber eyes intense. "I know you can help her, Lily. I've seen the way you've already changed things for her. When she tasted your food, for the first time in years, she felt something. You brought a piece of life back to her." Lily nodded slowly, the weight of the situation sinking in. She didn't fully understand it, but she had to try. She had to help. She couldn't back down now, not when she had already come this far. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucian's gaze softened, and he stepped closer to her. "You need to cook for her. It's not just about food, it's about what's in it. What you give her must come from the heart, from a place of warmth and love. Only then will the curse start to break. She needs to feel again, to know what it's like to be alive." Lily swallowed, trying to steady her nerves. She had never been a healer, never claimed to have any special powers. But there was something about the way Lucian spoke, the way he looked at her, that made her believe in this impossible task. She took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll do my best," she said, her hands trembling slightly as she turned to the small kitchen area nearby. Lucian watched her closely, his eyes filled with both hope and desperation. As Lily began to prepare the ingredients, she felt an odd sense of peace settle over her. It was strange, but the act of cooking felt almost natural here, as if the castle itself was guiding her hand. The ingredients seemed to come together effortlessly, and she could feel the warmth of the meal growing as she added each component. She stirred the pot carefully, thinking of the love and care she had put into every meal she had ever made. This was no different, but somehow, it felt more important. After what felt like hours, Lily carefully plated the food, bringing it over to the princess's bedside. Lucian stood silently beside her, watching as she placed the meal in front of his daughter. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, thick and heavy. Lily waited, holding her breath. The princess's eyes fluttered, her lashes trembling slightly. And then, to Lily's amazement, the princess's lips parted. "It smells different," the princess whispered, her voice soft and hoarse, as if she hadn't spoken in years. Lily's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "Try it," Lucian urged, his voice thick with emotion. Slowly, the princess reached for the fork and took a small bite. She chewed slowly, her eyes closing as if savoring the taste. And then, the impossible happened. A tear slipped down her cheek. The princess, the cold, distant figure who had rejected everything for so long, finally showed a sign of life. Lily stood there, stunned, as Lucian's hand clenched at his side, his expression one of wonder. "You did it," he whispered. "You've brought her back." The princess looked up at them both, her eyes filled with something Lily had never seen before, emotion, warmth, and a hint of hope. I feel something," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of her own emotions. Thank you. It was then that Lily realized she had done something far greater than cooking a simple meal. She had given the princess a chance to live again, a chance to feel again. And with that, Lily knew she had truly found her place in this strange, dark world. The curse wasn't broken yet, but it had begun to crack, and Lily had a feeling that with every step she took, it would break even further. She had become part of something much larger than herself, and there was no turning back now. I'm sure Lily had no idea what she was getting into when she agreed to stay at the castle, but as the days passed, the world around her started to change. The princess, once a distant and cold figure, had slowly begun to open up, showing glimpses of the woman she could be without the curse that had plagued her for so long. Every meal Lily cooked seemed to make a difference, each dish bringing more color to the princess's pale cheeks and life to her once empty eyes. But even as the princess grew stronger, there were still moments of doubt. Lucian, the vampire king, continued to watch Lily with an intensity that both frightened and intrigued her. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than just cooking meals for the princess. One evening, after she had prepared another simple but heartfelt meal, she was summoned to the king's study. The castle, dark and looming, felt different tonight. There was an energy in the air, an undercurrent of tension that she hadn't noticed before. As she made her way through the long corridors, her footsteps echoed in the quiet, and the flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the stone walls. She reached the study door, took a deep breath, and knocked softly. "Come in," Lucian's voice called from within. Lily entered, her heart racing in her chest. Lucian was sitting behind a massive oak desk, papers scattered in front of him, his dark amber eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. He looked up as she entered, his gaze soft but calculating. "Lily," he said, his voice low and steady. "I need to talk to you about something important." She stepped closer, trying to keep her composure. "What's going on?" "It's about my daughter," Lucian began. "The curse is breaking, slowly but surely. But there's more to it than just food. The magic in her curse is tied to something much older, much more powerful than we originally realized. It goes beyond her not being able to eat. It's a matter of life and death." Lily felt her stomach tighten. She had known there was something more at play, but she hadn't expected this. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lucian stood up and walked toward the window, his back to her. "The curse was placed on my family by an ancient force, a being who has been watching over us for centuries, manipulating our lives for their own twisted reasons. My daughter's curse is just the beginning. If it isn't broken completely, it will spread, affecting everything we hold dear." Lily's mind was spinning. She had thought her role here was simple, to help the princess feel again, to break a curse through her cooking. But this was something far bigger than she had ever imagined. Lucian turned back to face her, his expression unreadable. "I've been protecting my family for hundreds of years, but I can't do this alone. That's why I need you." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Me? How could I possibly help with something like that?" Lucian took a step closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "You're the key, Lily. You've already started breaking the curse. You've done something no one else has been able to do. The magic you carry, your ability to make my daughter feel again. It's the only way we can defeat this dark force." The room seemed to close in on Lily. She wasn't just a cook. She wasn't just a waitress. She was somehow tied into the very fate of the Vampire King's family, and now the fate of the entire vampire world. She could feel the weight of her role pressing down on her. "I don't know if I can do this," she said, her voice shaky. "You don't have a choice," Lucian replied softly, yet firmly. "This curse is more than just my daughter. It's more than just us. It will affect everyone if it's not stopped. And you, Lily, you're the only one who has a chance to stop it." Lily swallowed hard, trying to comprehend the enormity of what he was asking of her. But deep down, she knew that she couldn't walk away. She couldn't turn her back on them now. "Okay," she said, her voice stronger than before. "I'll help you. I'll do whatever it takes." Lucian's expression softened, a flicker of something akin to relief passing through his eyes. He stepped closer to her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "Thank you, Lily. I know you're scared, but you're not alone. We'll do this together." As his words sank in, Lily knew this was only the beginning. The battle ahead would be far more dangerous than anything she could have imagined. But she also knew that, for the first time in her life, she had a purpose. And she wasn't about to let that purpose slip away. The road ahead would be dark, and the challenges would be many. But with Lucian by her side and the princess beginning to heal, Lily felt a glimmer of hope spark deep inside her. This curse would be broken, and she would be the one to break it. She just had to trust herself and the strange magic she carried within her. Together, they would fight for the future of the vampire kingdom, and for the future of the princess who had once been lost in the darkness. I'm sure Lily had no idea what she was truly walking into when she agreed to stay and help the Vampire King's family. But as the days passed, things began to feel different. There was an uneasiness in the air, something darker that she couldn't shake. Despite the progress with the princess, the lingering tension between her and Lucian, the Vampire King, grew with each passing day. There was something unspoken between them, a connection that neither of them acknowledged, but Lily couldn't deny it. She could feel his presence everywhere she went in the castle, always watching, always observing. She had begun to notice little things, the way his eyes followed her, the subtle changes in his demeanor when she was near. It was as if he was both pulling her in and pushing her away at the same time. Lily's focus, however, remained on the princess. Every meal she prepared seemed to help her heal a little more, and slowly but surely, the princess began to show signs of life that she hadn't seen in years. But with each small victory, the threat of the curse hanging over them grew heavier. Lily knew there was something more she needed to do. One evening, as she stood in the kitchen preparing yet another meal, she overheard a conversation outside the door. It was Lucian's voice, low and urgent, speaking with one of his advisors. "The curse is breaking, but it's not enough," Lucian said, his voice filled with frustration. "If we don't act soon, we risk losing everything. The force that cursed my daughter is ancient, powerful. It won't stop until it has what it wants." Lily's heart skipped a beat. What did he mean by what it wants? And why had he never told her the full truth about the curse? She felt a deep sense of unease settle in her stomach. She had been so focused on helping the princess, on breaking the curse with her cooking, that she had never considered what the true cost of all this might be. She needed answers. Later that night, after everyone had retired to their chambers, Lily quietly made her way to the castle's library. She had seen the vast collection of ancient books and scrolls before, but had never dared to explore them. She needed to understand what she was really up against. As she wandered through the shelves, she stumbled upon a large, leather-bound book, its spine cracked from age. She opened it carefully, her fingers tracing the faded letters as she began to read. The words were old, written in a language she could barely understand, but something about them resonated deep within her. The book spoke of a curse cast by an ancient vampire queen, a curse so powerful it could bind souls for eternity. The curse was designed to drain the life force of its victim, rendering them emotionless, trapped in a state of numbness until the curse was broken by a being with the power to heal. The more Lily read, the more she realized that the curse wasn't just a simple spell. It was a binding, a chain that had been woven into the very fabric of the princess's soul. To break it, they needed more than just food, more than just love. They needed to find the source of the curse, the one who had cast it in the first place. Lily's mind raced as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. She couldn't help but think of Lucian, of the weight of centuries that pressed down on him. He had been carrying the burden of this curse for so long, and now, with the princess's life on the line, Lily knew she had to act. The next day, she sought out Lucian. She found him in the grand hall, staring out at the distant horizon, his posture tense, as if waiting for something or someone. "Lucian," Lily called, her voice hesitant. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Lily," he said softly. "What's wrong?" She hesitated, gathering her thoughts. "I know the curse is tied to something more than just the princess. I've been reading. I know that this curse isn't just about her. It's about something much older, something that could destroy everything if we don't stop it." Lucian's face darkened, and he stepped closer to her. "I was hoping you wouldn't find out," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "But it seems you're more connected to this than I realized." Lily's heart pounded in her chest. "What do you mean?" Lucian looked away, his eyes filled with years of pain. "The curse was cast by the vampire queen, my ancestor. She was powerful beyond measure, and she had her reasons for cursing my family. She was angry, betrayed, and in her rage, she bound the souls of my bloodline to a fate worse than death. Your role in all this is no accident, Lily. You've been chosen, whether you realize it or not. Lily stood frozen, her mind reeling. Chosen? For what? To heal the curse? To become part of a world she never imagined existed? Lucian continued, his voice low. I need you to help me break this curse once and for all. You've already done something no one else could. You've brought my daughter back from the brink. But there is still much to be done. The Vampire Queen's power is not easily undone. Lily felt the weight of his words settle on her shoulders. She had known this journey would be difficult, but now she realized just how high the stakes were. The curse was not just a family burden, it was a battle for survival. For the survival of the vampire kingdom, and for her own future. What do we need to do? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Lucian's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something like hope in them. We need to find the Queen's relics, the source of her power. Only then can we break the curse for good. With that, Lily knew her fate was sealed. She had come here to help the princess, but now she understood that her role in this story was much larger than she ever imagined. She was no longer just a simple waitress. She was the key to saving them all. I can see that Lily's journey was about to take another dangerous turn. The gravity of what Lucian had just told her settled heavily in her heart. She had come here to help the princess, to break a curse that seemed impossible to lift. But now, it was clear that the stakes were much higher than she had ever imagined. Lucian was no longer just the king of a vampire family. He was a man burdened by a past that was far more complicated than Lily could comprehend. The Vampire Queen, his ancestor, had cast a curse on his family, and now it was up to Lily to help break it. She had already begun the process by making the princess feel again, but that was only the beginning. Lucian's words echoed in her mind as she lay in her chambers that night. You're the key, he had said. But what did that mean? She had always thought of herself as ordinary, just a simple waitress who could cook meals. How was it possible that she was the one who could break such an ancient, powerful curse? The next morning, Lily found herself once again walking the grand halls of the castle. Lucian had asked her to meet him in the royal library, the place where most of the answers about the curse might be found. She had seen the library before, but she had never ventured into its depths. It was a vast, towering room filled with old scrolls and books, each one older than anything she could have imagined. The shelves seemed to stretch endlessly, the weight of centuries of knowledge pressing down on her. She had been summoned here for something important, but she wasn't sure what. As she stepped into the library, she found Lucian, waiting for her, his back to her, his tall frame hunched over an ancient tome. He didn't look up when she entered, but she could feel his presence in every corner of the room. You came, he said, his voice low and almost inaudible. Lily nodded, stepping forward slowly. What do we need to do next? Lucian turned to face her, his amber eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the library. He looked worn, like the weight of centuries of existence was taking its toll. We need to find the Vampire Queen's relics, he said, his voice filled with determination. Her relics are the key to understanding the curse. They are imbued with the magic that holds my family bound. If we can find them, we can break the curse for good. Lily's stomach twisted. Relics? Magic? This was a world she had never known, and now she was expected to be part of it. Where do we start? She asked, trying to steady her nerves. Lucian's gaze softened, and he moved toward an old wooden desk where a map was spread out before him. He gestured for Lily to come closer. This map was passed down through my family for generations, he explained. It shows the locations of the Vampire Queen's most important relics. Some of them have been hidden for centuries, but others are still within our reach. The first one is located in the ancient temple of Lurith, deep in the heart of the Black Forest. Lily looked down at the map, her heart racing. The Black Forest was known for its dangers, wild creatures, treacherous paths, and the eerie atmosphere that hung over it. It was a place of mystery, a place most people avoided. And now she was being asked to travel there, to search for a relic that could break an ancient curse. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Lily whispered, more to herself than to Lucian. Lucian placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch surprisingly gentle. You don't have to be ready, Lily, he said softly. You are already more capable than you realize. The journey ahead will be difficult, but I believe in you. We will face this together. For the first time since she had entered the castle, Lily felt a glimmer of hope. Lucian's words, though heavy with the weight of responsibility, also carried an undeniable trust. She wasn't alone in this, and that made all the difference. "Okay," she said, her voice stronger than before. "Let's go." The two of them set out the next day, leaving the castle behind as they ventured into the Black Forest. The journey was long, and the forest itself seemed alive with its own strange magic. The trees stretched high above them, their branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sun, casting the ground in a perpetual twilight. As they made their way deeper into the forest, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, whispers, rustlings, and the occasional distant growl. Lucian, ever calm and collected, led the way with a steady pace, his senses sharper than Lily's could ever be. She followed closely behind, her heart pounding with each step. After what felt like hours of walking, they arrived at a clearing, the air thick with mist. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone temple, half buried in the earth, its once grand pillars crumbled with age. It was surrounded by an eerie silence, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "This is it," Lucian said, his voice low and filled with reverence. "The Temple of Lurith." Lily swallowed hard. "Are we sure we should be here?" Lucian turned to her, his amber eyes glowing brighter. "This is the only way forward. The relic we need is inside." Together, they stepped forward into the dark temple, the air growing colder with each passing moment. The temple was filled with ancient carvings and inscriptions, their meanings lost to time. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the silence became. They reached a large chamber at the heart of the temple, where a pedestal stood in the center, glowing faintly in the darkness. And there, atop the pedestal, lay the first of the vampire queen's relics, an ornate, jeweled dagger. Lily felt a strange pull toward it, as if the dagger itself was calling to her. She stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers brushed against the hilt, a surge of energy coursed through her body, and for a brief moment, she saw a vision, a flash of the vampire queen, her eyes filled with power and rage. Lily gasped, pulling her hand back. Lucian's voice broke through the vision. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked, his tone both awed and fearful. "The magic, the power of the relic. This is only the beginning, Lily. We have a long road ahead of us." Lily nodded, still shaken by the vision, but determined. They had found the first relic, but there was no turning back now. The journey had only just begun. I could feel the weight of the first relic in my hands as I walked beside Lucian back through the dense black forest. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and the sound of distant rustling, as though the forest itself was alive, watching us. The dagger, still warm from the strange surge of power I had felt when I touched it, rested in my palm. It was beautiful, but it was also dangerous, its jeweled surface glinting ominously in the dim light. Lucian had been silent since we left the temple, but I could tell he was deep in thought, his mind working on the next steps of our journey. The path ahead of us was becoming clearer, yet somehow, it felt like we were walking towards something even darker. As we reached the edge of the forest, the moonlight broke through the trees, casting long shadows on the ground. Lucian finally spoke, his voice low and filled with a kind of weariness I hadn't heard before. "This is only the beginning, Lily. The Queen's magic is ancient, and its reach goes far beyond what we've seen. The dagger you touched, it's only the first step." I nodded, still feeling the echoes of the magic that had surged through me when I made contact with the relic. "I know," I said softly, my voice carrying the weight of the realization. "But what does this mean for the princess? For you? Is this how we break the curse?" Lucian turned to face me, his amber eyes glowing faintly. "The dagger is a key, but it's not enough. It will help us understand the curse, but we need the other relics, especially the Heartstone." At the mention of the Heartstone, I felt a chill run down my spine. I'd heard whispers about the legendary gem, a powerful artifact that could bind or break the fates of entire bloodlines. But it was said to be hidden deep within the forbidden caverns, a place where even the bravest souls never returned from. "The forbidden caverns?" I asked, barely able to speak the words. "That place is a myth. No one has ever come back from there." Lucian's gaze hardened. "It's no myth. The Heartstone is there, and it's the only way to break the curse completely. The cave is protected by ancient magic, deadly magic. But with the dagger, we might have a chance. I didn't know if I was ready to face something like the forbidden caverns. The stories I had heard growing up painted it as a place of death, a place where time itself seemed to twist and turn. But there was no choice now. Lucian's words had set our course, and we had to follow it, no matter how impossible it seemed. We spent the next few days preparing for the journey to the caverns. Lucian provided me with ancient texts, some of them in languages I couldn't read, to help me understand the magic we would be up against. We studied the map, the one that had shown the locations of the relics, and tried to make sense of what lay ahead. Each night, I slept restlessly, my dreams filled with images of the princess, of Lucian, and of the darkness that seemed to follow us everywhere we went. There was no escaping it. The curse wasn't just about the princess anymore. It was about us, about the entire world that lay hidden beneath the surface. We couldn't run from it. On the third day, we set out toward the forbidden caverns. The journey was long and treacherous, the path winding through narrow mountain passes and thick forests. As we approached the caverns, the air grew colder, and the ground beneath our feet became uneven and rocky. It felt as if we were stepping into another world, one that existed outside of time. Lucian led the way, his footsteps confident despite the dangers that lay ahead. I followed closely behind, my heart pounding in my chest. The closer we got, the more I could feel the weight of the magic surrounding us. It was oppressive, like a physical presence pressing down on us. The walls of the caverns loomed ahead, their jagged edges like the teeth of some ancient beast. "We're almost there," Lucian said, his voice steady but tense. "Once we enter, we can't turn back." I nodded, my stomach tight with anxiety. There was no turning back now. As we entered the caverns, the temperature dropped even further. The walls were damp, slick with moisture, and the air smelled of decay. Strange echoes filled the air, as if the cavern itself was alive, whispering in voices long forgotten. We descended deeper into the cavern, our only light coming from the faint glow of Lucian's magic. The further we went, the more the darkness seemed to press in around us. The oppressive silence was broken only by the sound of our footsteps and the occasional drip of water from the stalactites above. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take the eerie silence anymore, we arrived at the Heartstone's chamber. The sight before me took my breath away. At the center of the room, surrounded by a ring of ancient runes, lay the Heartstone. It was a glowing gem, pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly light. The air around it crackled with power, the magic that protected it ancient and overwhelming. Lucian stepped forward, his hand outstretched toward the Heartstone. "This is it," he said, his voice low. "With this, we can break the curse. But it won't be easy. The Heartstone has a price." I watched him closely, unsure of what he meant. "A price?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Lucian turned to face me, his expression serious. "Yes, the Heartstone doesn't come without sacrifice. It will require more than just our strength. It will take something from us. Something precious." A shiver ran down my spine. We had come so far, but now it felt like the hardest part of the journey was just beginning. I could feel the tension in the air as we approached the Heartstone, its glowing light pulsating with an ancient and powerful magic. Lucian was right. This was not going to be easy. He stood next to me, his gaze fixed on the gem at the center of the chamber, the runes around it glowing softly, almost as if they were alive. It was a mesmerizing sight, but the energy in the room felt suffocating, almost as if the cavern itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. "Remember," Lucian said, his voice low, "the Heartstone comes with a price. We can't break the curse without it, but it will take something from us. Something important." The weight of his words pressed down on me. A price? What could it possibly want? I had already sacrificed so much, but I was willing to do whatever it took to help the princess, to finally break the curse that had kept her trapped for so long. Lucian stepped forward, cautiously approaching the Heartstone, his hand outstretched. I hesitated, standing at the edge of the glowing circle, watching him as if waiting for a sign. There was an undeniable connection between him and the stone, an ancient bond that ran deeper than anything I could understand. The moment his fingers brushed the surface of the gem, the entire cavern seemed to shudder, the runes flaring brightly, and a strange energy surged through the air. My heart pounded in my chest as I felt the ground beneath us tremble. Lucian gasped, his body stiffening as if an invisible force was pressing against him. "It's reacting to me," he said, his voice strained. "The Heartstone recognizes the bloodline." His hand hovered over the gem as if he was struggling to control the power it was releasing. "It wants to take something. It's asking for a sacrifice." My mind raced. What could the Heartstone possibly want from him? He had already carried the weight of the curse for centuries. Wasn't that enough? What is it asking for? I whispered, stepping closer to him. Lucian's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "It wants my immortality," he said quietly. "To break the curse, I would have to give up what I am. My life, my power, everything." A cold shiver ran down my spine. He couldn't be serious. Lucian was offering up his immortality? His very essence? "You can't," I said, my voice trembling. "You've lived for so long. You're the vampire king. If you do this," he turned to me, his expression softening. "If I do this, we can break the curse. It will be over. The princess will be free. But I won't survive it, Lily." The finality in his voice left me speechless. He was willing to sacrifice everything. The very essence of his being, his centuries of life, in exchange for the princess's freedom. But I couldn't let him. He had already given so much. The thought of losing him was unbearable. "There has to be another way," I said urgently, my heart pounding. "We can't let you do this." Lucian's face softened, a sad smile curling at the corners of his lips. "There is no other way, Lily. This is the price of breaking the curse." He turned back to the Heartstone, his eyes clouded with a mix of acceptance and resignation. "The choice is mine." I watched him for a moment, feeling a deep sadness settle in my chest. This wasn't fair. It shouldn't be him who had to pay the price. But then, I realized something. I had the power to help. I had already broken part of the curse with my cooking, with my touch. Maybe I could do more. Maybe I could stop him from sacrificing himself. "Lucian, wait," I said, stepping forward. "What if I give up my life instead?" His head snapped toward me, his eyes wide with shock. "No, Lily. You don't understand. The Heartstone requires a blood sacrifice, and it must come from someone who is bound to the curse. You're not part of this. You don't have the power to break it." I shook my head, refusing to accept that. "Maybe I don't have the power to break the curse completely, but I've already touched the magic. I've already connected with the stone. If anyone can make a sacrifice, it's me." Lucian looked at me with an unreadable expression, as if he was weighing my words. "You would risk your life for the princess?" he asked softly, his voice filled with disbelief. I nodded. "I would. She deserves to live a full life, free of the curse. And you deserve to have peace, Lucian." For a long moment, he didn't say anything. The tension in the air was unbearable, and I could feel my heart racing, my mind racing with every possible outcome. Finally, Lucian spoke. "If you truly wish to do this, then we must make the sacrifice together." I stared at him in confusion. "Together?" "Yes," he said, his eyes dark with determination. "The Heartstone may ask for one life, but we can offer it too. If we both give something of ourselves, something vital, the curse can be broken. It will cost us everything, but it will save my daughter. It will save us all." I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. I didn't know if I was ready for this, but I knew I couldn't let Lucian sacrifice himself alone. We had come this far together, and we would face whatever came. Next, side by side, I stepped closer to him, my hand reaching for his. "Let's do it," I said, my voice steady. "Together." Lucian looked at me, a flicker of something, hope, maybe, shining in his eyes. He nodded, and together, we stepped forward toward the Heartstone, ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as Lucian and I stood before the Heartstone, the weight of our decision hanging in the air like a storm about to break. The energy around us was electric, crackling with the intensity of centuries-old magic, the very air thick with the ancient power of the Heartstone. The cave, silent and oppressive, seemed to close in on us, and I could hear the echo of my breath in the stillness. Lucian's hand was steady as he placed the dagger down on the ground in front of the Heartstone, its jeweled surface gleaming in the dim light. His gaze was unwavering, his face unreadable, but I could see the tension in his posture, the quiet determination beneath his calm exterior. He was ready, but so was I. There was no turning back now. "Lily," Lucian said quietly, his voice breaking the heavy silence. Are you sure about this? I turned to face him, feeling the gravity of the moment settle over me. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. We've come this far together. We'll do this together. Lucian's amber eyes softened for a moment, but the weight of his next words was unmistakable. The Heartstone will take from us, Lily. The sacrifice won't be easy. We'll both lose something. Our immortality, our power, everything we've known. Are you ready for that? I nodded, my resolve hardening. I've never had anything more important than this. I'm ready. Lucian seemed to accept my words, though I could see the pain flicker in his gaze. He reached for my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. Together, we stepped forward, closer to the Heartstone. The moment our hands touched the gem, the cavern shook, the runes on the floor flaring to life with a brilliant, blinding light. My heart raced as the power surged through me, and for a moment, I felt as if I was being pulled apart, the weight of centuries of magic rushing through my veins. But I didn't pull away. Neither did Lucian. We stood together, feeling the immense force of the Heartstone as it began to absorb our sacrifices. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity. I could feel my body weakening, the magic draining me, and yet, it was also exhilarating. I had never felt more alive, more connected to something greater than myself. The power was intoxicating, and I could hear Lucian's steady breath beside me, his grip tightening as he too felt the energy coursing through him. Suddenly, the magic intensified, and I felt a sharp pain deep within my chest. It was as if something was being torn from me, something I couldn't hold on to any longer. The Heartstone was claiming its price. Lucian, I gasped, but he didn't answer. I turned to face him, and my heart clenched at the sight of him. His face was pale, his expression strained, and I could see the effort it was taking for him to remain standing. He was losing his immortality, just as the Heartstone had promised. I wanted to pull away, to stop it, but I couldn't. We were both bound to it now. I could see the truth in his eyes. This was the price he had feared. I wanted to scream, to tell him we could stop, that it wasn't worth it, but his eyes locked onto mine, and in them, I saw something else. Determination, acceptance, and love. Lily, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rising energy of the Heartstone. This is the only way. For her, for my daughter. We've done it. We've broken the curse. The moment his words left his lips, everything changed. The Heartstone blazed with light, the cavern filling with an overwhelming surge of energy. I felt the magic leaving me, the connection to Lucian's power severing, and yet, at the same time, I felt lighter, freer, as if something heavy had been lifted from my soul. The force of the magic was overwhelming, but I didn't feel afraid. In that moment, I realized the curse had been broken. I glanced at Lucian, and for the first time since I had met him, he seemed truly at peace. His eyes no longer glowed with the eternal hunger of a vampire. They were simply human. He was no longer immortal. He had given it all up. For the princess. For the future. For us. It's done, Lucian said, his voice hoarse but filled with relief. His body trembled, and he collapsed to his knees, but I caught him before he fell. I held him tightly, my heart aching for the loss he had just endured. He had sacrificed everything to free his daughter, to free all of them from the curse. And in that moment, I knew that he had done the right thing. I had helped him break the curse, but I had also helped him find his humanity again. We had done this together. You did it, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. You saved her. Lucian nodded, his eyes closing as he leaned against me. We saved her, he corrected softly. He smiled, though it was faint, and then added, Thank you, Lily, for everything. As I looked at him, I realized how much I had changed. I had come here a simple waitress, unsure of my place in this world, but now I felt as if I belonged. I wasn't just part of their world. I was part of something much larger, something far more important. I had broken a curse that had lasted centuries. And together, Lucian and I had built a future. The princess would live. The kingdom would be free. And Lucian would have the chance to live, too. He had given up immortality, but in return, he had found peace. For the first time, I could see the hope in his eyes. We had won, but it had come at a cost. Yet somehow, that cost had been worth it. The Heartstone's light began to fade, its magic ebbing away, And for the first time in a long time, the air in the cavern felt still. We had done what we came to do. The curse was broken. And now, we could finally move forward, together. I had never imagined that a journey like this would bring so much change, not just to the world around me, but to myself. The curse was broken, the Heartstone's light faded, and Lucian was no longer bound by the immortality that had cursed his family for centuries. We had won, and yet, there was a deep sense of finality settling into my bones, as if the world was shifting, moving toward a new beginning. Lucian and I made our way back to the castle, his steps slower now, weaker, but with a quiet peace that had eluded him for centuries. He no longer held the weight of the curse on his shoulders, and I could see the difference in him. There was something lighter in his gaze, something human. The castle, too, seemed different now. The dark shadows that had once lingered in every corner no longer felt so oppressive. The walls that had witnessed centuries of pain and suffering now seemed to breathe with a new sense of life. The princess, too, was waking up to a new reality. As we entered the grand hall, we found her standing by the windows, the sunlight casting soft beams of light on her delicate features. She looked like a different person, her eyes filled with clarity and warmth instead of the cold emptiness they had once held. She turned to us as we entered, her lips curling into a smile. "Father," she said, her voice soft and warm. "It's over, isn't it?" Lucian nodded, his eyes filled with love and pride as he stepped forward to embrace her. "It's over, my dear," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I watched them for a moment, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. The curse was broken, and they were free. But there was still something inside me that couldn't quite let go. I had become a part of their world in ways I hadn't expected. The bond between Lucian and I had deepened throughout the journey, and I could feel it now, like a thread tying us together, something stronger than any force I had known before. "Lily," Lucian said, pulling me from my thoughts. He looked at me, his expression tender. "I want you to stay. We have much to rebuild, and I cannot do it without you. You've already done so much for us." His words were simple, yet they carried so much weight. Stay? The thought of leaving this world behind, of returning to the quiet life I had once known, seemed impossible now. I had never planned on staying here, not for this long. But as I looked at Lucian, at the princess, I realized that my place was here now, in this world that had become my own in ways I hadn't expected. I had helped them, helped break the curse, but in return, they had changed me, too. The power I had touched, the strength I had found within myself, it wasn't just about helping the princess. It was about helping myself. It was about understanding that my role in this world was far greater than I had ever imagined. "I'll stay," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was full. "I want to help you rebuild, Lucian. I want to be part of this new beginning." Lucian's eyes softened, and he reached out to take my hand, his grip strong, steady. "Thank you, Lily," he whispered, his voice thick with gratitude. "You have no idea how much that means to me." The princess stepped forward, her gaze bright. "We'll rebuild this kingdom together," she said, her voice filled with newfound hope. "And we'll do it right this time, with love and strength, not with fear." The words were simple, but they were everything. They were the promise of a new beginning, a future where the curse was nothing more than a distant memory. And I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. I looked at Lucian, and then at the princess, feeling the weight of everything we had gone through, but also the hope that stretched before us like an open horizon. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be struggles, and there would be losses. But I knew one thing for sure. We would face it all together. I had found my place in this world, and together, we would make sure the past stayed where it belonged, behind us. I could feel the weight of the decision settle over me as the days passed since the curse was finally broken. Lucian and I had made our sacrifices, and for the first time, the castle felt alive in a way it never had before. There was a sense of hope in the air, a sense that things could finally change. The princess, free from the curse that had bound her for so long, was beginning to find herself again. The shadows that had once clouded her eyes were slowly lifting, replaced by a light I hadn't thought possible. Lucian, no longer immortal, was learning what it meant to live in a world that didn't revolve around power and blood. I could see it in the way he moved, the way he interacted with his daughter, and even in the way he looked at me. For the first time, he seemed human. And maybe that was the most beautiful thing of all. As the days passed, I found myself more and more drawn to him, not just as the vampire king, but as the man who had sacrificed everything for his family, for the future. The bond between us, forged in the fires of shared struggle, was undeniable. It was more than just a simple connection. It was a promise, an understanding. He had given me a life I never imagined possible, and in return, I had helped him and his family break free from a curse that had lasted for centuries. But as much as the castle and its people had begun to feel like home, there was still so much uncertainty ahead. Lucian's decision to give up his immortality had not come without its consequences. The strength that had once radiated from him was now replaced with vulnerability. He had been the ruler of the vampire kingdom for centuries, and now, he was learning how to live as a mortal. The burden of his past, the weight of the decisions he had made, still hung heavily over him. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a soft glow over the castle's ancient stone walls, I found Lucian standing at the edge of the courtyard, staring out at the horizon. His posture was tense, as though he was lost in thought, the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders once again. I stepped forward, my footsteps light on the cobblestone path. "Lucian," I called softly, my voice breaking the silence. He turned to me, his amber eyes meeting mine with an intensity that I had come to recognize. But now, there was something else in them. Uncertainty, a vulnerability that he hadn't allowed himself to show before. "You're thinking about the past again, aren't you?" I asked, taking a step closer to him. He sighed, his shoulders slumping as if the years of burden had suddenly caught up with him. "It's hard not to," he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "I've lived for so long, seen so many things, made so many choices, and now, everything is different. I don't know who I am anymore." I moved closer, standing beside him, looking out at the landscape together. The castle was peaceful now, the sound of birds in the trees and the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze a far cry from the tension and chaos that had once filled these halls. "You're still the same man, Lucian," I said, my voice steady. "You've just been given the chance to live a different life now, a chance to find out who you really are without the weight of immortality hanging over you." He turned to face me, his eyes searching mine. "But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't live up to the man I once was?" His words struck me harder than I expected. He had always been strong, always in control, the vampire king who commanded armies and ruled over centuries of history. But now, he was standing before me, unsure of his place in the world. I reached out and took his hand in mine, my grip firm. "You don't have to live up to anyone else, Lucian," I said softly. "You just have to be you. The man who cares about his daughter, who sacrificed everything for her. The man who helped me find my own strength. That's enough. You're enough." He looked at me for a long moment, as if searching for the truth in my words. Then, a small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Thank you, Lily," he said quietly. "You've given me more than I could ever ask for." We stood there for a moment longer, the silence between us comfortable, filled with understanding. The weight of his past was still there, but it no longer had the power to define him. He was ready to move forward, and so was I. Together, we would rebuild, not just the kingdom, but ourselves. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Lucian, though no longer a vampire king in the traditional sense, took up the mantle of leadership in a new way. He worked alongside the princess, helping to guide the kingdom into a new era, one where love and compassion would replace fear and power. The princess, now fully healed, stepped into her role as the leader she was always meant to be. Her strength grew with each passing day, and I watched her bloom into a confident ruler, unafraid to make the difficult decisions that would shape the future. As for me, I had found my place here in the castle, not just as someone who had helped break the curse, but as a part of this family, this new beginning. I worked alongside the princess, helping her with the rebuilding efforts, ensuring that the kingdom would be a place where everyone, not just the vampires, could live in peace. Lucian and I spent more time together, slowly learning to navigate this new life we had built. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of doubt, but we faced them together. The road ahead was long, and there would be challenges we couldn't yet foresee, but I knew one thing for certain. We were no longer bound by the past. We had broken the curse, and we had earned the right to build something better. Together. The days that followed our victory felt like a new chapter for all of us. Lucian, no longer bound by immortality, was finally able to embrace a life he had long been denied. The princess, now fully freed from the curse, stood tall as the leader she was always meant to be. The castle, once cold and oppressive, was now filled with warmth and laughter. It was a time of healing, not just for the princess, but for the entire kingdom. Lucian and I found solace in each other's company, and slowly, I saw the man who had once ruled an empire, consumed by centuries of pain and power, finally find peace. As we rebuilt the kingdom, we rebuilt ourselves. Lucian's guidance was invaluable, but it wasn't just his knowledge of ruling that shaped the future. It was his humanity, his willingness to learn, to evolve, that inspired those around him. He wasn't just a king anymore. He was a father, a friend, a man who had sacrificed everything to give his daughter, and now the kingdom, a second chance. I stood by his side, not as someone who had once been a mere servant, but as a partner, someone who had been part of something much greater than either of us could have imagined. Every meal I cooked for the kingdom was a reminder of how far we had come, how I had come, from a simple waitress to someone who had helped break a centuries-old curse. The castle became a home to me in ways I couldn't explain, and I couldn't help but feel that I had finally found where I truly belonged. As the seasons changed, the world outside the castle began to heal as well. The vampire families, once divided and consumed by centuries of politics, now worked together for a common goal, peace. The tension that had once lingered over the kingdom began to fade, replaced by a new era of understanding. The princess took her place as queen, with Lucian standing by her side, guiding her as she made difficult decisions for the future. But it wasn't just the kingdom that had changed. It was the people, all of us. The curse had not only affected the princess, but it had bound us all in its darkness, and breaking it had freed us in more ways than one. One evening, as Lucian and I stood together in the castle courtyard, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I realized how much we had all grown. Lucian, now mortal, was no longer a king in the traditional sense. He had become something more, a mentor, a father, and a protector of the new world we had created. The weight of immortality had been lifted from him, and in its place, he had found a sense of peace. "I never thought this day would come," Lucian said softly, his voice filled with reflection. "A life without the curse, without the weight of my past. I never imagined I could feel free again." I smiled, standing beside him, my hand gently resting on his. "You are free now," I said, my voice steady. "Not just from the curse, but from the past that held you captive for so long. And you don't have to face the future alone." Lucian looked at me, his eyes filled with something deep, something that words could never capture. In that moment, I realized just how far we had come, how far we had both come. From the first time we met, when he was a king burdened by centuries of regret, and I was a simple waitress, to this moment where we stood together as equals, partners in everything. "Thank you," Lucian said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "For everything, Lily. You gave me a second chance, a chance I never thought I deserved." I shook my head, my smile gentle. "We gave each other that chance," I said. "We're in this together." And that was the truth. We had fought through the darkness, broken the curse, and found our place in this new world. Together. The days ahead would not be without challenges. There would be struggles, doubts, and moments of uncertainty. But for the first time, I knew we were ready. Ready to face whatever came next. The curse that had once bound Lucian and his family had been broken, but it had changed all of us in ways we couldn't have predicted. And now, we were free to live, to build, and to love without the shadow of the past hanging over us. The future was ours to create, and we would create it together.